Hey everybody, this is Russ with strategyfiend.com. Welcome to the first of a series designed for the super beginner, one who has zero knowledge of the game. And I'm going to rattle off a couple of snappy videos to really quickly get you up to speed from zero knowledge. So let's, without further hesitation, jump right in. Assuming zero knowledge, you don't know that these are called pawns, but they are. You have 8 of them, as does your opponent. These are rooks, knights, bishops, kings, queens, bishops, knights, rooks. Important to note, you want to avoid calling these castles, horsies, pointy-headed dudes, and any misogynistic terms that you can come up with for the queen should be avoided as well. Alright, how do these pieces move? And don't worry, in the ensuing videos we'll cover capturing and we'll cover objectives and all the things that will make playing the game fun. But first, of course, we need to know what the pieces are called and how they move. So let's do that. Pawns move 1 square at a time, directly forward. They may not hop over pieces. In fact, the only piece that can hop over pieces is the knight. The pawn does have a couple unusual features about it, and that is, one, when it is on its original square, it has the option of moving 2 rather than 1. Thusly. Now you see that the white pawn has moved only 1, but it's no longer on its original square, so the system will not allow me to move it 2, because that is against the rules, and the system knows that. I can move it 1 only from this point on. Only from the original square may I move 2. Okay, hopefully I've made that clear. The other interesting aspect of the pawn is that I mentioned it can't move backwards. It's the only piece that cannot move backwards. No, no, no. So, point being, make your pawn moves judiciously because they are unable to be corrected. However, that said, if you can manage to get your pawn down all the way to the other end, your pawn will promote to the piece of your choice. For reasons I'll get into later, this is most likely going to be one of these 2 pieces. 99.9% of the time it's going to be a queen, and in fact so often that it's typically just referred to as queening. So that covers pawns. Rooks. And I'll just repeat, none of the pieces other than the knight may leap over pieces. So when I describe these movements, they all assume that they are unimpeded by other pieces, unobstructed. So the rook may move as many pieces, as many squares rather, as you desire, provided there's nothing stopping it. These are all straight line moves, so a rook on 1 turn could not do, zigzaggy, hey, it's a straight line, yes, but it's also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 turns worth of straight lines. So that's the way that would have to go. I'll come back to the knight. One's a little trickier. The bishop moves diagonally, and again, as many as you wish, providing there's no obstructions. The king, same limitation in terms of obstructions, may move only just 1 square at a time. And all these pieces may move backwards. Pawns, no. Everything else, yes. Queen, the most valuable piece on the board. She may move like a knight. She may move... I always want to say that. She may not move like a knight. No. So that means she cannot hop over pieces. She may move like a rook, or she may move like a bishop. She may not move like a knight. Which is a clue as to why I said you may want to choose one of these 2 to promote your pawn to, right? Okay. So, We get to the other bishop. A good time to point out that you have a dark squared bishop and a light squared bishop, and they will always remain on this color square. Okay, knights. While I'm talking about them always remaining on this color square, rooks, you'll note, can land on every color square. We'll talk about values of pieces in a future video, but it should be clear that ability makes them slightly more valuable than the bishop. Not quite twice as valuable, but more. Alright, knights. Let's tackle them. So the knight moves in that fashion, and it is most commonly described as 1-2 over. There is no restriction on right or left. The knight could just as easily have moved there. You may not occupy one square with multiple pieces, so it has to be an empty square. Let's demonstrate the knight's moves where there's a little bit more room on the board. So 1-2 over, or over, 1-2 over, or over, 1-2 over, or over. And yes, I am aware that this is a bit redundant, but notice that these destination squares are all the opposite color that the knight is currently on. The reason I'm being a little bit more thorough and colorful with the knight is that in the beginning it's a little bit difficult for visualization of where the knight can move to, and so it's easy to get trapped and snared by these knights just because they move so tricky and it's hard to see. It's well worth your time to invest in some practice moving the knights around the board to just sort of get an idea. Some useful patterns would be that this box around the knight, you can see the relationship of the destination squares in relationship to that box. Another one I've heard is that a knight may move to the opposite corner of a 6-squared box. I tend to think that this is a little bit more confusing than it is useful, but somebody liked it, so maybe that will be you as well. So you can see, I think the confusing part is that there's a lot of 6-squared boxes to include, right? So how do I do this? I tend to think of it as a Y shape. And that is what helps me visualize it. For everybody it's different. I have no idea why that one struck a chord with me, but it did, and so that's basically what I do. But I guess I should be clear that I'm not really thinking Y-shaped during the game at this point in my chess playing. I am. You get to a point where you just see where they go. That's what I'm trying to say. So, if at first it's frustrating, stick with it. It'll come to you. Board vision is just something that is developed, through play, like anything else. And it's not just the knights, actually. The knights are the most difficult, but, you'll just stick pieces where they can be easily captured early on chess playing, because there's so much going on, it's impossible to expect that you won't right off the bat. If for some reason that doesn't happen to you, quit your job and become a chess pro, because actually don't do that unless you don't make very much money, but you definitely have a future in quality chess playing. So that, I think, covers the chess moves, and next we'll get into some tricky rules about capturing, and things of that nature. So hope to see you then. Please hit the subscribe and like buttons. I love that when you do it. And I will see you next time. Thanks again.